In addition to protesting Israeli settlements in the West Bank, progressive caucus members are also pushing back against U.S. sponsorship of Israel's Iron Dome system. Now, this is footage of Israel's Iron Dome. We shot it 2 weeks ago when I was in Israel with the IDF. The second night I was in Israel, because of incoming rockets, the Iron Dome was activated, and it was successful. Those rockets are from Israel's enemies who want to kill them. The Iron Dome, and this is important, is a defensive system. It does not kill. It just stops rockets from coming in and killing. Former spokesperson of the Israeli Defense Force, Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus, joins me. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you.
So the Progressive Caucus here in the United States apparently objects to the United States contributing to the Iron Dome, which is a defensive mechanism.
Yeah. I guess they don't care too much about human life, Israeli or Palestinians. That's the only explanation, because when I look at that amazing weapon system, it is a weapon, but it is a defensive one. What it does is that it saves lives. First and foremost, Israeli lives. That's the #1 design. That's the feature. But also saves lots of Palestinians, because when thousands of rockets are fired at Israel, if they're not intercepted by the Iron Dome, Israeli civilians die. If they die, then the IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, are pressured to respond much more fiercely than what they are today. Today, we have the leisure of responding with precise and very expensive munitions only at where the terrorists are. Imagine a situation where we have 30, 40, or 50 dead Israelis every day. What do you think the level of pressure and outcry from Israeli civilians would be at their government and military? Stop the rockets. And IDF will be forced to do so using, no more gloves on. Today, IDF is fighting with its gloves on.
It strikes me as it's like when you go there, I mean, obviously when you go to any store, you see things so differently. And I've been to Israel a number of times. But, the tunnels have really stuck with me, the terrorist tunnels from Lebanon into Israel. And to have the rockets come in, and have news organizations refer to a guy who's driving around trying to hit people and getting on a car and stabbing people as a car driver.
Right.
It does tilt the game.
Yeah.
It does, the rest of the world is listening to this and think it's just a car driver.
I think what our enemies learned, let's say 1973 and beyond, is that they cannot beat Israel on the battlefield. They tried for 4 wars, but they failed. Even when they had the best possible situation in the beginning of the Yom Kippur War, when they caught us unprepared, they could have, but they didn't. And eventually, I think all of our enemies have understood that they can't beat us on the battlefield. Since then, it's been about rockets, and it's been about terrorism. And another area or another domain where Israel has to fight for its existence is information and media. We are singled out criticism in international media, at UN institutions, and unfortunately in various legislators around the world. And I care most about what things that happen in the US, where one country is singled out for criticism. I'm not saying that Israel shouldn't be criticized. All countries probably should be criticized, but I think that my country is held to almost impossible standards, especially when it comes to how we conduct ourselves while we defend ourselves against attackers.
President Herzog is going to be speaking joint session of Congress on Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's not the prime minister. Very different job. He's a ceremonial job. The President Netanyahu runs the government. Is there any significance to this? Should the Americans read anything into it that it's the president, not the prime minister?
Well, it's great that President Herzog is here and that he has an audience, such a respectable audience. That's great. I think that the optics of U.S.-Israeli relations at this time are not good. And from a security perspective, that's how I see the world until this day. I'm a bit concerned because the optics are very important for Israel standing in the region. We are surrounded by lots of enemies. So far, thankfully, we're very strong, we're well equipped, we have a great military, strong economy, and strong cohesion. But it really relies a lot upon what our enemies see and how they see the bond between our 2 great countries, the US and Israel. When that bond isn't strong, and when there are not good-looking optics, that sends a message to our enemies that perhaps this would be a good time to test Israel's resolve and perhaps attack.
Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus, thank you for joining me, and welcome to Washington.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.